Hi, my name is Nancy Love, and I am making this video on behalf of the Planet Peace Project, a fledgling organization that longs to live and was designed a long time ago to help save the world. But no one is helping to save the Planet Peace Project, so guess to hell with the handbasket with all that. I want to talk about Elon Musk. He's a smart fellow, no one can doubt that, but he has at times behaved in ways that seem completely outrageous and dangerous. A lot of people think that the Tesla cars are doing some things on autopilot that are killing people, and to continue to sell a product that is deadly is, of course, irresponsible. I hope that he can fix that. Another thing is that this guy uh, gave away free flamethrowers in Los Angeles several years ago. Wildfires broke out within a week, and many people blame Elon Musk for deadly, devastating wildfires that swept across huge swaths of land, killing wildlife, destroying habitat, endangering homes, because somebody couldn't figure out not to give away free flamethrowers to idiots. Yeah, some people were starting their barbecues with these things while they were already drunk. Yeah. In a in an area internationally renowned for wildfires and attendant mudslides. So Elon, please in the future keep your flamethrowers to yourself. You think, honey? Now the reason I'm going to the trouble of talking to you about this today is because of what he's done most recently that seems quite outrageous. He has gone around with his big voice and his ability to get interviews at press agencies worldwide, trying to convince you that it's okay if we double our population. Elon Musk, who is an otherwise intelligent person, seriously, I mean, truly, in some ways, not always, but in some ways at least, he's brilliant. I don't think he's entirely that smart because when I talked to his people a few years ago about hiring me, he failed completely to see the opportunity to have someone with one of the highest IQs in recorded history working for him. But oh well, his loss and mine as well. Now, reasons why I think he's wrong include the following. Overpopulation is Human overpopulation is what's killing the world. Right now, the biomass, the cumulative weight of all life on this planet is almost entirely human, and the stock, the animals that we enslave, terrify, imprison, and slaughter to feed on death and blood and cruelty. Yes, I do not consume animals, and neither should you. Plant sourced diet, period. That's the future of the planet. Anyone who eats dead animals should be dished out on themselves. Um, Overpopulation has been killing the planet for many, many decades, and we as a species, or you as a species, if you're stupid enough to breed, I'm not. I'm one of the 1 in 5 baby boomers who refuse to do so. Yay, baby boom. You people took 200,000 years to get to your first billion. Now you breeders are doubling or adding a whole billion new human beings every 15 years. What is the difference between a planet absorbing a new species and its needs and requirements and its waste products over the course of 200,000 years, and a planet that's expected to absorb the waste, the toxins, and the rampant pollution and other ramifications of the greed and lust and foolishness of a species, or otherwise known as an infestation, in 15 years? Uh-uh. It's not happening. And the result is what we call global warming. Global warming, climate change is one of the primary reasons why we should not try to double our population and be just fine. We should try to maintain it and possibly even diminish it slightly over the course of the next century. Now you got your war. Everybody knows all about war because everybody's vomiting right now because of what is happening in various parts of the world. And until we as a species can figure out how to get along with one another, excuse me, we really shouldn't be breeding because we're not good at being around one another at all. I have a thing in the Planet Peace Project called Micropeace, and it's what these YouTube videos are all about. I wanted to teach about how to be a soul living in a vulnerable physical form, how to, um, psychosocial development, how to make better decisions, how to have better relationships. Because I have this idea that until individuals can live in peace with one another, including, yes, including families, um, and neighbors, that we cannot have a peaceful world. As long as there's domestic violence, child abuse, gang activity, roommates roughing each other up, then even if we achieve the miracle of no longer warring across national boundaries or civil wars between factions within countries, we would still not manage to be at peace with one another. I have heard arguments, even recently, between men about things like if somebody left some peanut butter in somebody else's room, or once I heard a man scream at another man that he was going to throw the other man out the window because uh, the other man moved somebody's shampoo. Once I sat there and listened in person as someone threatened to murder someone who had criticized his aunt's cooking. And he said to restore honor to his aunt, he was going to have to murder this man who said he didn't particularly think that lady was a good cook. So as long as we have like this, BS like this happening between individuals, we really have no hope or chance of living in a peaceful world because some of these may be politicians and have power. I mean, we can't have world leaders threatening to murder each other over not liking a meal or moving somebody's shampoo now, can we? Hello. God, what a species. I can't really believe, from my perspective, that anybody wants more of these things. What sort of person is Elon Musk? What sort of person thinks that we need more human beings when the ones we've got here are so rampantly, virulently imperfect and lacking in evolution? I can't figure it out. God, get a clue, evolve, get better at being, and then and only then are you qualified to be a parent. Make the world a significantly better place, more reliably safe, more clean, wholesome. Then and only then are we as a species qualified to add more to our numbers. We're not doing it right. We're doing it all wrong. And I really, really resent Elon for having the it's pomposity, and I don't mean to be hypercritical because I do think the man does a lot of good, but it is nothing short of pompous and short-sighted and halfway to narcissism for him to think that the rest of us should be around all over the place breeding when the vast majority of people that you and I know aren't really doing well in terms of supporting their children. I knew a couple years ago whose baby apparently was actually born with a brain tumor, and I met them when the child was 18 months, but they were always scrambling around for his next surgery and his aftercare. I've known people who struggled for food. I've known people who struggled for housing. There are, and here we get to the worst part, and this is what completely outrages me about what he's going around saying. He needs to retract his statements, grow up, and show up with an actual intellect and some analysis of real data and some empathy. He needs to show up with an actual heart and soul and say, oh, never mind, get some birth control. And maybe Elon Musk, after hearing Nancy Love, who apparently is a bit smarter than he is, should actually pay for free sterilization surgeries for people smart enough to want it. Here's a statistic that Elon Musk needs to eat. I've been on this planet just over 60 years. The entire time I've been on this planet, and I started out when there were approximately only 4 billion people, approximately 25,000 people starve to death every 24 hours. Every trip, every time the world turns, 25,000 people don't have enough to eat and they die of it. Now there's around 8 billion people. We've doubled the population in my short lifetime. And guess what? The statistic has remained entirely static. It hasn't gone down. There are still 25,000 people starving all the way to death. You gotta be horrifyingly malnutrition to die of it. Starvation and its attendant diseases. And yet, Elon Musk thinks we can double our population while 25,000 people, more than half usually, are children who never had enough to eat for one day of their lives. They never had one day of their lives with enough. And so they die without enough. Well, fat people, by that I mean financially fat, not physically. I've been overweight myself. I'm not talking about fat shaming. I'm talking about financially fat people, overweight people, waste food. George Clooney has probably spent more money on a shirt or a tie or a fancy meal for his rich people than an entire village would need to feed itself for a week. Rich people are causing starvation because they're not paying attention to the horrifying tragedy and cruelty of starvation. And while financially fat people in Hollywood and elsewhere, in Dubai and all those horrible places full of greed, all these people have way, way, way more than enough. Tiny little babies starve. I'm tired of hearing about economic this and financial that. If I handed you a starving baby, you'd feed it. You're not that stupid, you're not that lustful, you're not that greedy, you're not that cruel as to deny a starving child a meal. But Elon Musk thinks that we who do things so massively imperfectly who haven't been able to fix this in more than half a century and earlier than that. He thinks that it's okay. It's cool with him while he's making all of his money and becoming this billionaire and this, fancy playboy. He thinks that 25,000 people starving to death every day is okay. And he says we'll be just fine with 16 billion. We are not just fine right now. Excuse me. But duh, get sterilized. That man alone has 5 or 6 children. Who could even keep count? And let's get to this. Let's get to this. If Elon Musk thinks that everybody can go around breeding in captivity, which is what this essentially is in a way, then he should be willing to feed them all, clothe them all, house them all, and pay for their educations. If they have medical problems, he needs to be able to address that. Because I know way, way, way too many people, and I'm sure you do as well, who struggled financially to take good care of their children, and sometimes they failed. While Elon Musk has so much more money than he will ever need in a lifetime, and if he thinks everybody else ought to be going around breeding, then maybe he should pony up and be willing to pay for all that. That's what I think. So then we have pollution, which is a direct result of overpopulation. The old Native American story about the death of the river. There is a river, a group of people settle along it. They pour their wastes into the river. The river, obediently enough, takes the waste to the ocean. More people come. Those people breed. More and more people are there now throwing their waste into the river. The river clogs up. The human waste, the toxins humans produce, have basically dammed the river and it will not flow. We have violated the natural balance of the ecology of nature. We have taken our so called superior minds, and there's nothing superior at all about humanity. There is not one damn thing superior about human beings on this world because we're the only species capable of causing a mass extinction, global climate change. We're sending the world to hell in the handbasket with our stupidity, our greed, our lust, and our massive, willful ignorance of basic ecological principles called balance and harmony and guardianship. This should be a garden. We should be tending it. We should not be abusing it, laying waste to it, plowing it over, paving it over. I'm horrified that anybody who goes around calling himself intelligent would say to you, it's okay if the human species doubles its population, we'll be just fine. We're not doing it right now. We're not fine now. Why would we be fine then with double the number of stupid people, lacking in evolution, lacking in moral development? Oh, yeah, what about criminality? Criminality is rampant. Ever heard of international organized crime? Ever heard of scarce resources? Water? There are factions in countries that have gone to war over scarce water supplies. That's just the beginning. Years ago, there was a beautiful, wonderful documentary about, it was called 2100, and it was produced by Bob Woodward, and it talked all about mass migrations due primarily to climate change, and um, that people would move in mass to get to where there was water and the ability to grow food. That's happening now. We've got islands now where the uh, water level, the sea level, has risen to the point where these islands are having to be vacated. But what about the wildlife? What about the plants and animals that live there? Don't they get a free ride to mainland? Or are we just going to flood every island in the world, drowning everything in our path because we can't be bothered to get a clue? And then, of course, Elon. Then there's being brought in. There's the whole mafia thing. There's the whole military thing. And that's why I am calling breeding in the 21st century by human beings breeding in captivity. A lot of people on this planet right this minute consider themselves enslaved. I've talked to people who said they never had a chance at life. Their, you know, marriages were arranged. Their professions were arranged. The school they went to, so many things were determined by people that didn't have a right to do so. And yes, that includes your parents. Your parents never, ever, ever had a right to tell you who to marry, what school to go to, or what profession to pursue. They don't have a right. You are the natural product of life's longing for itself, according to Khalil Gibran, and you have a right to marry who you want to do, be who you want to be, go to what school you want to go to, and have the profession that suits your heart and soul. So as long as Elon Musk thinks that it's okay to bring children into the world, knowing full well many of them were going to be enslaved in some kind of mafia military global encampment of greed, he's wrong. And I'm tired of everyone listening to Elon Musk. Why don't you actually listen to someone who's got a clue, like me? I should be the billionaire, and he should be a firefighter working in the Los Angeles area trying to put out the wildfires he's caused with his free flamethrowers. Once again, I don't mean to cast aspersions on his intelligence. I mean to question his judgment in this particular regard. Elon, you've got a lot of money. Will you please get yourself clipped and stop breeding in captivity?